Greetings, viewers. So, third video for today. I'll have some other videos later this week, but I wanted to just a couple closing thoughts on contemporary geopolitics and particularly my own country, the United States, and the amazing spectacle, long awaited, of actual mass working class politics have come back to the United States. There are a ton of reasons for this. I'll be writing some articles about this in the future, about why and how it took so long. The short answer is the United States was this world empire between 1945 and 2008. And when you're a world empire, politics are something you outsource to someone else. You just sit around and collect rents all day. And that turned out to be a very bad thing for America in the long run. But it's taken 10 years since the end of the empire, since the end of the American hegemony. But it finally kicked in, and most Americans finally came to their senses and realized America needs to change. We need to go back to our democratic traditions, to the foundations of the country as rebellions, as anti-colonial revolution against world empire. We need to rediscover the resistances of the 16th century, the 17th century, the 18th century, the 19th century, and the 20th century, and the early 21st century, and synthesize them all. And it's amazing to see this beginning to happen. There are tons of examples. The most famous is Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, and her radicalization process, because one of the things that transformed her was one of the struggles against the pipelines, the mobilization at Standing Rock, where Indigenous Americans, the First Nations, were struggling against this monstrous oil pipeline that was just going to destroy the ecosystem and condemn the earth. And she was there with some of the original victims of imperialism, still struggling, still fighting, still around. This is a wonderful metaphor for there's a continuity of the struggles. There's an emerging temporal solidarity between every generation of activists over the last 400 years. There's something really deep happening here. And I would argue that there's a deep history of every single resistance since 1492 is now in play, because we're entering another period of open resistance and transformation. And I am going to go out on a limb here, and maybe I'm right about this, maybe I'm wrong, but my general sense, as someone who's studied geopolitics and history, culture, the world system, China, India, Indonesia, Russia, et cetera, for years and years and years and years, my sense is 2020 to 2024, the next 4 years are going to be spectacular. Some progressive alternative is slowly emerging and is about to erupt on the world system. All the preconditions are there, and we're seeing the first signs of this. In the United States, this is extremely obvious with the twin insurgencies that have taken over the Democratic Party, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. My own position is that either one will be fine as president. I'd be happy to see either of them in the White House. It's more likely to be Warren because she has a bit more energy and organizational reasons and whatnot. But they'll both be fine, and they're actually on the same team. And what's important is that each is actually in this good competition with the other. One will come up with a policy proposal and the other will answer. And then one will come up with a policy proposal and the other will answer. And this, you can see them, they're this tag team, actually working on the same side, moving the discourse. Just in 4 months, they've pushed the political center so far to the left that I can't actually recognize American politics anymore. Literally, I cannot recognize my country. I'm like, is this happening? Am I dreaming? This is what I've always wanted and hoped for, but to see it actually begin to happen. And of course, it's not just those two figures. It's in fact immense numbers of Americans have been acting up and protesting and arguing and fighting, and movement after movement, this, that, climate extinction, the feminist protests, the mass protests, all the incredible struggles that have been happening since 2016. Sanders was there all along. Actually, Warren was there all along. And ordinary people have been stepping up. Now, politicians are starting to see it take organizational form. And one of the most interesting stories to pay close attention to is don't pay attention to the money, but pay close attention to the use of digital tools. And I think there, both Bernie and Warren doing something very important, because they're actually building structures of digital solidarity. And these structures will not end on the election of the president. They're going to be the crystallization board. They're going to be the places, the nodes where some new politics emerges, some new mass politics of working people, of the people, for the people, by the people, of the 330 million working Americans who have to work for a living, are going to fight back against the plutocrats and win.